Hello, it's Randi Rhodes. Here's a clip from our show, and go to randyrhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a second podcast.
Mary had a little man.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon.
I have a dream today.
Change has come to America.
Believe me.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
So we did a great job, and we weren't treated fairly by the media because we really did a good job.
You were a rock star. I saw the video of it.
It was crazy. The cheering was deafening.
You don't know the people that has died there because they don't know, they don't have no communication, you know, so right now they say 18 people died. No. We have more people died.
We can't figure out why supplies are not coming in from San Juan.
Okay, so basically we're in this area, we're really the only ones here. We're 12 volunteer veterans, and people are hurting really bad right now.
The media is fake.
Every American should look at those pictures and say, do we want more of this? This is one simple thing that stops the making of a semi-automatic weapon into a machine gun.
Look, the Second Amendment really predates the Bill of Rights. Our founding fathers believed strongly in gun rights for citizens to bear arms.
But is it unlimited?
It is. I mean, you've seen.
Wish I was looking this off your pussy.
What?
Yeah. Facebook employees would show up for work every day in our offices.
Whoa, wait a minute. Facebook employees showed up at the Trump headquarters?
Google employees and Twitter employees.
I have a sense that there will, in fact, be indictments.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like he's on a reality show of some kind, you know, when he's talking about these big foreign policy issues. We could be heading towards World War III with the kind of comments that he's making.
All of a sudden, it's become a big deal now about oppression. There has been no oppression in the last 100 years that I know of. I don't care who you are. If you can't respect the flag and the country, then you don't respect what this is all about. So I would say, adios.
I'm telling you right now.
What do we have to do here?
Nothing. I'm going to take a shower. You sit there and have a drink. Water.
I don't drink. Can I stay on the bar?
No, you must come here now.
No.
Please.
No, I don't want to.
I'm not doing anything with you.
We have one set of law in the books, but there are really two legal systems. One legal system is for big corporations, for the wealthy and the powerful. And the second system is for everyone else.
It's disheartening that the president of a country would call any of his citizens an SOB. But then when you compare that, the events that happened in Charlottesville, where neo-Nazis killed a person and nearly beat another person to death, and he calls them very fine people. It's sad.
I went to an Ivy League school. I was a good student. I'm a very smart person.
Chartered waters. We have a White House where the staff views the president, let's be blunt, almost as a national security risk. General Kelly and Secretary Mattis have had conversations about if Trump lunged for the nuclear football, what would they do? Would they tackle him? I mean, literally physically restrain him from putting the country at sort of perilous risk.
And you have less than half the country that has what you need to sustain life. Without fresh water, power, food, places to live.
Mr. Cuomo, you're simply just making this stuff up.
How am I making it up? What am I making up?
If half the country didn't have food or water, those people would be dying. And they're not.
I am very uncomfortable with the President of the United States being able to dictate the behavior and power of anybody. I don't think that it is useful or helpful for any employee anywhere to be forced to do something because the government says they must. That scares the hell out of me.
Why we must put an end to Iran's continued aggression and nuclear ambitions. They have not lived up to the spirit of their agreement.
Trust me, I'm like a smart person.
You're fired.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. It's Friday the 13th, you bastards. It's Friday the 13th. Fake news Friday the 13th. But then with this president, every day is Friday the 13th. You know, now all of a sudden, I mean, this week alone, that was just this week alone. I mean, in the last 24 hours, Trump has tweeted that he wants to pull FEMA out. They can't stay in Puerto Rico forever. He has, decided that he's not going to recertify the Iran nuclear deal. And he has imploded or tried to implode the entire United States health insurance system. And we have 3 more years of this, everybody. 3 more years. What's going to be left? I don't know. It's crazy. This is just every day you wake up and all I find myself saying is, hurry up, Mueller. Hurry up. Oh, my God. So today, he said the Democrats' Obamacare is imploding. Massive subsidy payments to their pet insurance companies have stopped. Dems should call me to fix. It's a ransom demand, everybody, and we're all the hostages. Oh, my God. Dems should call me to fix. A brilliant negotiating tactic. The skills, the brilliant negotiations of Donald Trump. There are carjackers who have better negotiating skills than Donald Trump has. I mean, this is like amazing. He has just decided that he is not going to. The executive branch is supposed to send payments to insurance carriers to cover low-income Americans, to help them bridge the gap between their deductibles, their prescription drug bills. $7 billion. It's paid monthly, and it's part of the ACA. It's part of the law. Well, this president decided he's not going to send the payments because he's the executive branch. He's not going to send the payments. And so we're looking at he also decided that he is going to allow states to sell crap plans again. He's going to allow states to sell these scam plans that don't cover anything, which is worse than nothing, because if you had nothing, you would know you're not getting anything covered. When you buy these scam plans, you think you're covered until you submit your bills, and then you find out it covers absolutely nothing that you were billed for. So, I mean, you would literally be better off with no insurance than you would be with what Trump is proposing. You know, because with what Trump is proposing, you pay to get no coverage. That sucks. I just want to point out to the very stupid out there, that would be bad. You pay, you think you're covered, but it covers nothing. Those scam plans. And they will be scam plans because they don't have to conform to the 10 essential health benefits. They don't have to conform to any government oversight. And of course he goes, well, then they will be able to sell over state lines. Okay, can I just briefly explain to you, before we get into like World War III territory, why selling over state lines doesn't work? 6 states actually allow their insurance carriers to sell over state lines. No policies have been sold that way. None. Do you know why? Because doctors form insurance groups and they take certain insurance and they don't bother with the out-of-state stuff because they don't know the regulations in the other state. It's enough for them to keep up with what's going on in their state. So, you know, this idea of selling across state lines, doctors hate it, hospitals hate it, everybody hates it, patients hate it. You got to wait longer. It doesn't ever work. So we don't do that. I mean, it's legal in 6 states. Half a dozen states had moved to sell across state lines. No plans have ever been sold that way. So he's just destroying our healthcare system. For what? For what? A win. He's doing it for a win because he said he would. I mean, this is just amazing. Now, my other boyfriend, you know, James Comey is my boyfriend, but my other boyfriend, Austin Goolsbee, and people cannot figure out why I'm attracted to him. It's all in the head. You know what I mean? It's all in the cerebral part. I'm very attracted to him. Criticize me, I don't care. I love Austin Goolsbee.
That will be a catastrophic decision that will lead to millions of people losing their insurance, and there will be thousands of people that die or get major medical expenses, declare bankruptcy and others if they actually make that decision. If they do, they will pay a price for having done it, but I still don't want them to do that. I don't want them to pay that price, because I would rather have those millions of people not lose their insurance. This is crazy town. This is a decision that is opposed by every major medical organizations, the doctors, the nurses, the hospitals, the insurance companies, the consumer groups, and every other leading expert group has opposed this decision.
That's everybody. I mean, that's everybody. There is no one left except for Trump who thinks this is a good idea. Okay. But today, just so you know, he was the first sitting president to ever do this today. He went to the Values Voters Summit. Yes, to pass himself off as, a person who votes and has values, to pass himself off as uber Christian. This was really odd because this man has fewer voters than any other president has ever had, and he's got fewer values than any other president has ever had, and that's saying something, okay? But he told the Values Voters about this Christian nation of ours, okay? About what a great Christian nation of ours, while he was literally depriving millions of people of health insurance. I mean, it's unbelievable.
We are stopping cold the attacks on Judeo-Christian values.
I actually just did a spit take. Oh! Oh!
Oh! Thank you. Thank you very much.
All over my back.
And something I said so much during the last 2 years, but I'll say it again as we approach the end of the year.
Oh.
You know, we're getting near that beautiful Christmas season that people don't talk about anymore.
Thank you.
They don't use the word Christmas because it's not politically correct. You go to department stores and they'll say Happy New Year and they'll say other things and it'll be red. They'll have it painted, but they don't say, well, guess what? We're saying Merry Christmas again.
I may start World War III, and I'm going to, deprive people of health care. Puerto Rico can go to hell.
And as a Christmas gift to all of our hardworking families, we hope Congress will pass massive tax cuts for the American people.
Oh, my God. His solution for all that ails us, for a healthcare system that obviously needs, some fixing, for a world that could be peaceful, for honoring, treaties that we sign on to and deals that we, negotiated over 13 years with all other civilized nations and not so civilized nations around the world. Russia and China and the Iran deal, they're signatories to it. Of course, the entire European Union, Germany, France, Britain, everybody. And Iran itself came to the table. And, he may start World War III, but he's going to say Merry Christmas. He's going to say, by the way, what is he going to do? Is he going to force department stores? Is he going to force Macy's? Is he going to force, Saks Fifth Avenue? Is he going to force Kohl's? Is he going to force JCPenney? Is he going to force my company, Dark Horse Broadcast? Is he going to force Dark Horse to hang a wreath? Or is Scotty going to be, legally mandated to build a manger scene? Or, we're Jews, not Brett. But me and Scotty, you know what? It's just like me. Is he going to force companies to say Merry Christmas? Am I going to have to open the show with Merry Christmas during the entire season? This man needs to go. He needs to go. And all of these partisan efforts to force private entities, private companies, big and small, to say or do something, from the NFL to the department stores now, is illegal.
For a commercial-free, on-demand, whenever, wherever listening experience, visit RandiRhodes.com for your personal premium podcast today.
Yeah, you could buy tile at a chain store if you wanted to. You could wait for a kid to try and answer your questions about what's this made of, or how do I install it, or what's in stock. But what if you wanted serious craftsmanship? What if you wanted custom design, handmade to order from your imagination or an inspiration photo that you love. Probably you think you can't anymore, but I did. When it was time to shop tile, I came across a family-owned business that still handcrafts each and every individual tile, matching your colors, your inspiration, your design. Tempest Tile Works. They're based in Portland, Oregon, and they still handcraft the most magnificent tile. Let them match to your fabrics or to your countertops or to anything you can envision for your bath or kitchen. Teeny tiny tiles to oversized, their art or yours. It's all doable, it's all affordable, and it's all individually made just for your project. Visit Tempest Tile Works and look at their amazing gallery of designs and styles and give up the chain stores. Tempest Tile Works, custom made. TempestTileWorks.com.
Tales of American Political History with Clinton Porter Hackney.
We've been talking about how the U.S. and Canadian railroads established the first time zones in America. The problem still remained, though, that many locales didn't use the standard zone time, but stuck with their local solar time instead. But the railroad companies had at least gotten the ball rolling. Though most states adhered to the new standard time by 1895, many places in the U.S. kept using the old sundial time into the 1900s. But the federal government continued to stay out of it, allowing any locale to use whatever time it liked. Finally, in March of 1918, Congress passed the Standard Time Act, which mandated the zones set up by the railroads and gave the power to make changes to the Interstate Commerce Commission, and in 1966, Congress moved time zone oversight to the Department of Transportation. It had taken long enough, but finally Congress jumped in to organize our time. This is Clinton Porter Hackney at cphackney.com.
You're listening to WIN, Workers Independent News, a diversified media enterprises production. I'm Doug Cunningham.
Is there going to be a labor chapter? Yes. Is the labor chapter going to work? And is it going to raise wages in Mexico so that we can raise wages in the U.S. and Canada too? That's an open question.
The AFL-CIO's Celeste Drake from the NAFTA renegotiation talks in Washington, D.C. The original NAFTA trade agreement did not put labor or environmental chapters into the main text. The Teamsters' Mike Dolan, an international trade lobbyist for the union, and Jim Hoffa's liaison in the NAFTA renegotiations.
At the end of the day, if it doesn't work for working families, and I don't mean just in the U.S., but I mean for working families throughout North America, then we will oppose it. We will oppose NAFTA 2.0. We'll find out whether or not this NAFTA replacement will be something that actually puts the workers' interests in front of the short-term profit motives of the corporate and investment elites.
The NAFTA renegotiations are moving at a very fast pace for trade agreement talks. Celeste Drake says that while the U.S. trade representative is serious about the talks and does seem to be listening to labor, she has real concerns about transparency and the lack of real democracy as this new NAFTA is decided.
It's a very closed-door process that when you marry it to the fast-track provisions that allow it to be voted on at the end with no amendments, quick debate, it's really problematic in terms of democracy because the general public, if you're outside that stakeholder group, you didn't get to help make it and you don't get to help fix it. So it's really undemocratic.
Dolan says the Teamsters want to take the ISDS private corporate trade court out of NAFTA, along with the open cross-border trucking provisions. Here's what the Teamsters want to be in the new NAFTA.
NAFTA 2.0 must include a labor chapter with enforceable protections against child labor, forced labor, and protections for some of the labor rights that we take for granted in this country, like freedom of association and collective bargaining. We want to see wage rates increase under NAFTA, so there isn't this incentive to relocate production south of the border to Mexico, which is what we've seen for the last 20-plus years.
But according to Canadian NAFTA negotiators, Mexico isn't the only NAFTA nation undercutting labor standards. Canada wants the U.S. to rescind its anti-union laws called Right to Work. Drake says that they're serious.
They're serious. Their eyes are open. They know what a tough ask this is for the United States. But this isn't just a game where they're going to push the proposal across the table and take it right back immediately.
Basically what they're saying is that these state laws that undermine the power of unions have therefore the effect of depressing wages.
You've been listening to WIN, Workers Independent News. For more information, visit workersindependentnews.com.
All things Randi at RandiRhodes.com.
Go for launch.
Speaking truth to power, The Randi Rhodes Show.
We also stand with the millions of people who have suffered from the massive fires which are right now raging in California and the catastrophic hurricanes along the Gulf Coast in Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, and I will tell you, I left Texas, and I left Florida, and I left Louisiana, and I went to Puerto Rico, and I met with the president of the Virgin Islands. These are people that are incredible people. They've suffered gravely, and we'll be there. We're going to be there. We have really, it's not even a question of a choice. We don't even want a choice. We're going to be there as Americans, and we love those people and what they've gone through. And they're all healing, and their states and territories are healing, and they're healing rapidly.
Puerto Rico, 91% of the island does not have power or potable water. 91%. It was 83% yesterday, but they had a problem at one of the, electric centers. They haven't elaborated. And so we're back to 91% of the island not having power. And also, could I just say as an aside, he met with the president of the Virgin Islands. Do you know who the president of the Virgin Islands is? He is. Let that sink in for a minute. Donald Trump is the president of the Virgin Islands. He's also president of Puerto Rico. I have a higher IQ than anybody. Yeah. Let's take an IQ test, Mr. President. Come on. Come on. Let's do it. You and me. You and me. Just you and me, baby. Oh, my God. He's the president of the Virgin Islands. The person he met with in the Virgin Islands is the governor of the Virgin Islands, the governor of Puerto Rico. He's the president of the Virgin Islands. And only yesterday he was tweeting, hey, Puerto Rico, we can't keep FEMA there forever. You better learn to help yourself. What is with this guy? You can't follow any train of thought because the train it's like on multiple tracks. It's like one train, multiple tracks, and it's just like splitting down the middle. I don't know what he says. I don't know what he means by what he says. I don't know anything about. I can't figure it out. But California's healing rapidly. You're healing rapidly, because that would be news to me, because before the show started, I wrote down how many people died in California in these wildfires, and it was 31. And just now, it went up to 32. Healing rapidly. 221,000 acres have burned. There's 17 wildfires that are still raging right now. The winds are getting more gusty today. Tomorrow looks like it's going to be pretty, like 60-mile-an-hour winds. And those conditions, mixed with the low humidity that you have out there, Sunday night they're saying gusts up to 70 miles an hour. They're not going to be healing rapidly. I don't know what he's talking about. I met with the president of the Virgin Islands. You're the president of the Virgin Islands. I can't figure this. I don't understand. Here's California.
They're 85 years old, and I just don't know if they can rebuild. I mean, so many family heirlooms. I've thought my whole life I'm going to inherit these someday. This is what I'm going to pass down to my kids. Oh, God, I can't.
Oh.
All your life savings and work for all the years is gone. No. Since we've lived here 10 years, I never thought that Santa Rosa would have a fire like this, and we would lose everything.
You know how many of you came to my house and shared our beautiful view and our beautiful sky. But this is it. We're trying to find which house was ours.
Oh my God.
Went to bed about 12, and my one dog, she's really alert to things. She started barking and just wanting me to check on stuff. It was really windy. I went out front, wind's blowing, ashes coming down. Just grabbed my keys, my truck, and my dogs and took off. I'm just glad to be here. Glad to have my dogs. You can replace the stuff, but life's most important, so.
Fires are still out there. They are still actively growing.
resources still continue to be limited. We have folks on the fire line starting their third shift right now that have not been relieved because there's folks not available to come in with so many fires in the area.
Jesus Christ, you're healing very quickly, California. Healing very quickly. 400 people are missing. 32 people are dead that we know of. You have deputies having to wait for houses to cool off before they could go in the houses to see if there are bones of people, dead bodies in the house. The Sonoma County Sheriff's Office identified 10 victims on Thursday. Most of them were over 70. Yeah, the youngest was 57, the oldest was 95. Sonoma, Mendocino, Napa counties, they're the hardest hit by the fires. 20% of the population in those counties are over the age of 65. So you've got lots and lots of elderly people that just can't run. They didn't know what to do, okay? And you have seconds to react, which is why we were talking about a bug-out bag with Joy from the chat room. You have pregnant women who got stuck in traffic and they had other children with them, their previous children, and they got stuck in traffic and they thought they were going to die. She said, her name is Charity Ruiz. She said, honestly, I've never felt in my life like I was going to die, like in that moment, not just me, but my girls and my unborn baby. So she got out of the car, left her car, went back to her house and got her bicycle and rode out of the neighborhood with her 2 girls in the toddler trailer. She said, I can ride a bike. I'm pregnant, but it was hard, but I could. And then her house burned to the ground. Yeah. You have Charles Schultz, the creator of Peanuts, the comic strip. His house burned to the ground. His widow, Jean, 78, she had to evacuate their house on Monday, and the flames ate his house and reduced it to rubble. And their son, Monty Schultz, said that it destroyed everything that his father had built, that they had built together, a lot of memorabilia and things like that. The firefighters are absolutely exhausted. Like this firefighter just told you, there are 8,000 firefighters. Many of them came from out of state, but they are working 3 shifts in a row. They haven't had sleep. They've been working for days without sleep. The supervisors are trying to pull them off duty so that they could rest a little bit. They said, quote, we are finding people on the line that have just been going to work and staying out there for day after day after day. That's the Napa County Fire Chief Barry Bierman said Thursday. He said, we're identifying them. We're getting them in as soon as we can to get rest, especially now that we have more reinforcements coming. Meanwhile, many who lost homes are trying to figure out what to do next. In Yuba County, 10,000-acre blaze killed at least 4 people. Mariano and Krista Domingo saw the fire approach their fence, and they drove away with only 1 emergency oxygen tank for Krista, who needs oxygen. She has a lung disease, okay? I mean, this is just, but you're healing very quickly is what he tells the uber Christians.
We also stand with the millions of people who have suffered from the massive fires which are right now raging in California and the catastrophic hurricanes along the Gulf Coast in Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands. And I will tell you, I left Texas and I left Florida and I left Louisiana and I went to Puerto Rico, and I met with the president of the Virgin Islands.
That's you.
These are people that are incredible people. They've suffered gravely, and we'll be there. We're going to be there. We have really, it's not even a question of a choice. We don't even want a choice. We're going to be there as Americans, and we love those people and what they've gone through. And they're all healing, and their states and territories are healing, and they're healing rapidly.
Man is so far removed from reality that even calling him a reality TV star is just annoying. I mean, this is unbelievable. But this is what you get when you get a reality TV star who is, you know, another Harvey Weinstein, okay, with his, you know, you could do whatever you want to them. You know, as president, this is, I mean, why, I don't know why I'm still surprised by him. It just, it never, ever stops amazing me. The amount of brutality and evil and ill will and disdain that he has for the American people. I'm never really, you know, not shocked by it. Everything. I used to say, you know, people say to me, nothing shocks me anymore. And I always say, oh, everything shocks me, because it does. It just does. But this is really brutal. This is absolutely brutal. So Puerto Rico, here's the update on Puerto Rico. 91% are without power. It is a U.S. Commonwealth. By the way, people should really get to know what it is, okay? But 36,000 Puerto Ricans have come to Florida since October 3rd. Bienvenidos! Bienvenidos a Florida! Oh, I'm so excited. We have all these Puerto Ricans leaving Puerto Rico when they can, as soon as they can grab a flight, and they're coming to Florida, and this is great. However, they're doing it because food shortages are among the myriad challenges facing Puerto Rico's 3.4 million residents. Power outages, a shortage of drinking water have plagued the U.S. Commonwealth as well. Many communities remain cut off from the world. No phone service. Roads are blocked. 91% of Puerto Ricans were without power Friday, which was an increase from the 83% that we had on Thursday. And that's because Puerto Rico Electric Power Authority, PREPA, attributed the increase to those without power to a failure in the central system, but they didn't elaborate on what that means. So all we know is that there's no internet, there's no way for them to communicate, there's no way to get to a cell phone, there's no way to get any information about communities that aren't directly in San Juan. 1.2 million people, that's half of Puerto Rico, are without potable water. People are lining up every single day just to fill a bucket with, mountain water, stream water. Maybe a tank truck shows up, maybe it doesn't. And all that the House of Representatives has done so far is pass a $3.5 billion disaster package that should be split between Puerto Rico and Texas. Good luck to everybody. Good luck. I mean, and this man stands in front of the values voters who applaud him for having no values about voters. I mean, this is just so sick. This is so twisted. I can't even tell you. And then he said, oh, there's nobody more Christian than me. I'm taking away Obamacare subsidies. Effective immediately, by the way. Effective immediately. This is so sick. And then he says, we're going to say Merry Christmas. And for Christmas, hopefully you'll get some sort of a tax bill that literally increases the tax burden on middle-class families. And by the way, the subsidies that he's taking away are for low-income families. But he cares about the poor. He cares about the poor. I mean, what is wrong with her? Here's Ali Velshi dissecting the tax plan, just so you know.
Let's break down the president's plan.
Yes.
Let's start with corporate taxes. The current tax rate, corporate tax rate is 35%. That's what you call a statutory rate. That's what the tax code says you pay, but we don't actually pay that. We pay about 18.5%.
Did he say statutory rape? Because that's what this tax plan is. Just
percent on average, because some companies pay zero tax, other companies actually pay that rate. The president is proposing we slash that all to 20%, claiming that the cut would give Americans a $4,000 pay raise. I don't know what he's talking about. The White House chief economic advisor, Gary Cohn, tried to clarify that this morning.
Check this out.
When you lower the corporate tax rate and you lower the business tax rate on the pass-throughs, businesses have more earnings. So you take the money that's not being sent to the government and you give it to the employees. That ends up being about $4,000 per worker in the United States.
Dude, nuh-uh. That's not how it works. I would love somebody, anybody out there who's watching me, to tweet me at Ali Velshi and tell me of one example in which a company has saved the taxes that it pays to the United States or the government and then writes a check to its employees. That's not what companies do. You know what happens when companies have more money? They give it to their shareholders as dividends. End of story. This is just nonsense that the White House is making up here. Several economists, by the way, have completely pushed back about this, saying that unless you give us some details to indicate that tax cut is meant to be directed to employees, that's not what companies do. Tell me about the last time your company gave you a tax cut bonus.
Yeah, tell me about the last time your company gave you a tax cut bonus. Just give me a call, 561-270-3844, or tweet me at Randi Rhodes. Just tell me, when was the last time your company, through your productivity and hard work, made more profits and passed it on to you? Now tell me about the last time that they actually experienced, a new accountant who saved them money in federal taxes, and they said, hey, we hired a new accountant. He saved us some money in federal taxes, so we're going to pass that on to you. Look at your paycheck next week. It'll have more money in it because we saved money on our federal taxes. Never has happened. Never will happen. They give their shareholders dividends when they're more profitable, not you. this is such a... I can't believe Gary Cohn said that with a straight face. I mean, you just got to sit there and scratch your head in other various body parts and say, what the...
Clear for takeoff. Randi Rhodes Air Force. Air Force. RandiRhodes.com. This is the voice of the resistance. You're listening to the Progressive Voices Network.
This is Ezra Levin, Executive Director of Indivisible. Please go to indivisibleguide.com, type in your zip code, find your local Indivisible group, and join the movement to resist Trump's agenda. We've teamed up with Progressive Voices Network to help your community take action and hold Congress accountable.
Donald Trump is the biggest popular vote loser in history to ever call himself president-elect. He will attempt to use his congressional majority to reshape America in his own racist, authoritarian, and corrupt image. If progressives are going to stop this, we must stand indivisibly opposed to Trump and the members of Congress, or MOCs, who would do his bidding. Together, we have the power to resist. And we have the power to win. We know this because we've seen it before. The authors of this guide are former congressional staffers who witnessed the rise of the Tea Party. We saw these activists take on a popular president with a mandate for change and a supermajority in Congress. We saw them organize locally and convince their own MOCs to reject President Obama's agenda. Their ideas were wrong, cruel, and tinged with racism. And they won. We believe that protecting our values, our neighbors, and ourselves will require mounting a similar resistance to the Trump agenda, but a resistance built on the values of inclusion, tolerance, and fairness. Trump is not popular. He does not have a mandate. He does not have large congressional majorities. If a small minority in the Tea Party can stop President Obama, then we, the majority, can stop a petty tyrant named Trump.
Take action and hold Congress accountable. This is Ezra Levin on the Progressive Voices Network, asking you to join the millions who decided to become part of the movement to resist Trump's agenda. Check out indivisibleguide.com to start resisting on your home turf. Keep listening for more ways you can get involved.
This is the voice of the resistance. You're listening to the Progressive Voices Network. Your favorite Progressive Voices shows and your favorite hosts are available anytime, anywhere, on demand. Fully searchable on the PV app, SoundCloud, iTunes, and ProgressiveVoices.com. Randi Rhodes, Nicole Sandler's What's News, The Coffee Cast, Green News Reporter, Pterodactyl, they're all there whenever you want to listen, on demand 24/7. The Corral Cast, Off Kilter, Nurse Talk, Breaking Through, Laura Flanders, dozens more, updated daily and fully searchable on ProgressiveVoices.com and the PV app. Your choice, your schedule, on demand from Progressive Voices. The Randi Rhodes Show is live on RandiRhodes.com and the free Progressive Voices app for Android and iOS. Visit the App Store or ProgressiveVoices.com now.
So they borrowed more than $10 trillion, right? And yet we picked up $5.2 trillion just in the stock market, possibly picked up the whole thing in terms of the first 9 months, in terms of value. So you could say in one sense we're really increasing values, and maybe in a sense we're reducing debt.
What?
Dude, nuh-uh. That's not how it works. That is an erroneous claim by the President of the United States. For fact's sake, increases in the stock market have
Did he say for fuck's sake?
Absolutely no connection to the debt. First of all, let us define what we're talking about here. Debt is what the government owes based on its spending. The only way to reduce debt is to increase revenue. How? You either raise taxes, or you have really strong economic growth, or you reduce spending. That's it. Those are the only ways. It's got nothing to do with the stock market, President Trump, or anybody who works for President Trump who's listening to him. That's just dishonest. The market gains that the president is referring to is money that companies make, not the government. Companies make that money. The market's growth can have an impact on the economy, but again, nothing to do with the debt.
I said this to you yesterday. I'm so glad that everybody found that Hannity interview, because it was just a bunch of fake news. The whole thing was a fan fest posing as an interview, and the president made some of the most outrageous claims that went completely unchallenged, like because the stock market is doing well, we're paying down our debt. It made no sense to me. It made no sense to anybody. And Ali Velshi, of course, is a Wall Street dude. I mean, everything that he has proposed is detrimental to working class people, poor people. The tax cut is bogus. It's just so unbelievable. And he's got his guys out there saying things like, well, if your company pays less taxes, they will pass that tax savings on to you, the employee, in your paycheck. Never happens. Doesn't occur. No one's experienced this. The people that work at GE, okay, their company pays 0 federal taxes because they have accountants that can actually make it a 0 effective rate. You said, oh, we're the highest tax nation in the world. No, we're not. We may have a 35% corporate tax rate, although Sweden's got a higher one. And, other countries, the civilized countries, they pay 34% of their GDP through tax collection. We only take in 24% of our GDP through tax collection because we don't pay the highest taxes in the corporate world. Okay? Our corporations have an effective tax rate of anywhere from 0, and then some idiots pay the whole 35%, because when the president says that, he doesn't take into account the legal deductions that are available to corporations to offset the rate. I mean, it's just a lying fest. Everything he says, it's all fake news, and it just astounds me. It amazes me that you just can't even keep up with it. You just can't even keep up with it. So he passes an executive order yesterday that says low income people aren't going to get any help anymore paying for their health insurance, and somehow this is good news for him. And then goes to the Values Voter Summit where they have no values. I doubt that they, vote. I mean, he has no values. It's unbelievable, and invokes this uber Christianity that suddenly he possesses. Since when do you think of uber Christian and Donald Trump in the same sentence when he says, yeah, you could do anything. You can grab him by the P word. I mean, what? I just popped Tic Tacs because I can't stop kissing them. I mean, what is wrong with him? So,
This is why in a few moments I will sign an executive order taking the first steps to providing millions of Americans with Obamacare relief. It directs the Department of Health and Human Services, the Treasury, and the Department of Labor to take action to increase competition, increase choice, and increase access to lower-priced, high-quality health care options. So this is promoting health care. Millions and millions of people will be signing up for, and they're going to be very happy. This will be great health care. So congratulations to everybody.
This is sick. This is sick. What you just, there are 10 million people that are in the exchanges. 4/5 of them, 4/5, that's almost everyone in the exchange, gets some sort of help paying for their health insurance. And he just, with a stroke of his pen, decided that the executive branch isn't going to distribute the $7 billion. And open enrollment starts November 1st. Okay, this is like 2 weeks from now. I know because I have Obamacare, okay, and I get a subsidy. So the health insurers, the state regulators, they have been in a high state of anxiety, praying to God that he didn't do this because they know that this will crater the markets, especially the people who get the subsidy in the exchanges, people who don't get their health insurance through their employers, like me. Okay, like me, 4/5 of the 10 million people just got stiffed because Idiot Boy decided he needed to win on health care and he can't get it through Congress. And this is the guy that criticized Barack Obama for his executive orders, actually stealing money from the poorest Americans, from the most middle of the road Americans, me, who need a little help paying for our health insurance because we have pre-existing conditions. I mean, this is unbelievable. Ending the payments is grounds for any insurer to back out of its federal contract to sell health plans for 2018. I mean, I have health insurance today, but will I have it on November? I don't know. Because if they don't get the cost-sharing payments to help me pay for my health insurance, then they have every right to pull out because the law has been violated. This is just like what happened with Iran today, okay? It's the same damn thing. He just makes stuff up. None of it is true. Iran is in compliance with the nuclear deal. They have been certified twice by this administration, as being in compliance. Testimony has been given by General Dunford, Rex Tillerson, General Mattis, that it is in the interest of the United States of America to stay in the Iran deal, because if we don't, we will be the odd man out. We will be the isolated ones. We will be the lone wolf. Right? Here's the testimony that they gave.
Iran is not in material breach of the agreement, and I do believe the agreement to date has delayed the development of a nuclear capability by Iran.
Wow.
My view on the nuclear deal is they are in technical compliance of the nuclear arrangement.
Do you believe it's in our national security interest at the present time to remain in the JCPOA? That's a yes or no question.
Yes, Senator, I do.
Oh, my God. There's his generals. Of course, he knows more about, everything than the generals do. But there's that was General Dunford, Secretary of State Rex Tillerson, and General Mattis testifying in front of Congress that the Iranians are in compliance, that they've not breached the deal, that it's in our national security interest to remain in the deal, and there's no reason to not certify the deal or recertify the deal every 90 days. You know why the president did what he did today? And if you haven't heard what he did, the president has decided that he's not going to recertify the Iran deal.
The deal allows Iran to continue developing certain elements of its nuclear program, and importantly, in just a few years,
25,
as key restrictions disappear, Iran can sprint towards a rapid nuclear weapons breakout. In other words, we got weak inspections in exchange for no more than a purely short-term and temporary delay in Iran's path to nuclear weapons.
He doesn't know what he's talking about, okay? First of all, Iran is subject to other treaties. They are not allowed to proliferate nuclear weapons, and that has been a long thing. But, of course, we wanted inspections, and we wanted centrifuges to stop it, because Iran was saying that their centrifuges were spinning for scientific purposes, for power plants and all. And you know what? Nobody believed them. And the entire world didn't believe them. China didn't believe them. Russia didn't believe them. The EU didn't believe them. We didn't believe them. Nobody believed them. And we said, you know what? You need to be more transparent. And here's what 13 years of diplomatic negotiations ended with the entire world and Iran coming together. 13 years it took to negotiate this deal. Coming together in a regime of inspection on demand, in a regime that said that we would give them back their money that the entire world was holding under sanctions regimes. They could have their money back. And if they did that, if they got their money back in exchange, they would allow the International Atomic Energy Agency, the UN, and they would allow the UK, they would allow Germany, the United States, France, anybody that requested inspection of any, even military complexes, they would allow them in. 13 years we negotiated this deal. They finally agreed. They didn't trust the United States as being the weak link in all this, okay? They said, hey, the United States has lied plenty to us, okay? You installed your own Shah. You took over our government. You did, a whole lot. And then we had a revolution. And after the revolution, we kind of said bye-bye to you. And then we had a war with your archenemy, Iraq. We fought your archenemy, Iraq. Oh, Iraq was your dictator? Saddam Hussein was your pick? Oh, well, he gassed his own people. We thought we were doing you a favor. And what do? You fight against us as we went to fight him? And then after 9 years of us dying to get rid of this dictator, Saddam Hussein, you fight on his side and then you overthrow him. So we can't really trust you. The things you do are not trustworthy. We just want to be left alone. But yeah, we want our money back. So, okay, you give us our money back and we'll let you in to inspect. That's the whole deal. That's all it covers is nuclear inspections and a promise from Iran to comply with this arrangement. And they have. and they're not building a nuclear bomb. And you know, people say, well, you know, what if you have to give them notice? Yeah, you have to give them notice. What if they clean up? How much do you know about nuclear isotopes? How much do you know? Like, how long do they linger? Like freaking centuries, okay? You can't clean up. Also, we have drone surveillance. Also, we have, you know, if you go in there and you test soil and there's some active nuclear, then they're in breach. Idiots. They're so idiotic. So today he says he's not decertifying the deal. I mean, he's not certifying the deal. He's going to decertify, which kicks it to Congress, as I told you yesterday. Congress is the ones that can vote to reimpose sanctions. But what the president did do today also was the president decided to declare Iran's army, which has a very scary name, the Islamic Republican Guard Corps. Ooh. Labeled them a terrorist group. And that is a declaration of war on their security, apparatus, on their military. And Rex Tillerson and Mattis and Dunford and Kelly all told us the president will not go there. He will pull back from that. He will not do that, because if he does that, that is a declaration of war. And that is what Iran said today. Now, I want you to understand this. The Ayatollah is the conservative religious part of the government, just like the values voters. Okay? Just like this. They want Sharia law, and here in the United States, we want Christian law. Okay? The very conservative part of our society and the very conservative part of their society both want religious doctrine to permeate every aspect of your life. So in that way, they're very similar. The moderate, who is President Rouhani, he's a moderate. He's the person you could deal with. He's the one that actually just had an election, okay? And in their own election, they had the moderates versus the conservatives. And Rouhani was saying, religious law is not the way. Religious law is not the way. You know, the way that they operate, this is not good for Iran. Iran needs to open up. Iran needs to modernize. Iran needs to serve its people. You're right? Now, all of a sudden, today, when Trump declares this war on Iran, Rouhani says, oh, you know what? The conservatives, the Ayatollah, he was right. He was right. I made a mistake. He said, you can't trust America. You can't. And I said, yes, we can. We worked on this agreement for 13 years. It's going to be okay. You know, we should really just join the rest of the modern world. This is good for us. We'll get some money back. We can rebuild our economy, get the sanctions off. Our people will eat. It'll be great. You know, and now all of a sudden today, he's like, the conservatives were right. The conservatives were right. This isn't going to happen.
Well, it was interesting because he went on so shortly after U.S. President Trump spoke and just absolutely ripped into President Trump on pretty much every level, historically calling upon the many times that the Iranians felt that the U.S. Did them wrong, also saying that he believed a lot of the things that President Trump was saying was lies, as you've noticed, also saying that he believed that President Trump needed a history lesson. Let's listen into some more of what President Hassan Rouhani of Iran had to say just a few minutes ago.
In Trump's speech, and his talks about Iran's policy, only bad-mouthing and baseless accusations were made against the Iranian nation. He had nothing else to say.
This did not go well today. It's Friday the 13th, everybody. It is. So you have a president who decides to go to the Values Voters Summit, declare himself más Christian than anybody else. At the same time, dismantling the subsidies for 4/5 of the 10 million not rich Americans who depend on subsidies for the Obamacare, wiping that out with a stroke of a pen yesterday, basically declaring war on Iran, lying about the fact that they don't comply with this nuclear agreement when the rest of the world says, oh, yes, they do, isolating the United States from the world so that Iran will now continue to do business, you know, with Europe and all around China, India, you know, Russia. And the United States has become a pariah. And saying that California and the president of the Virgin Islands, who is Trump, are healing.
The Randi Rhodes, Air Force. The Randi Rhodes Show is live on RandiRhodes.com and the free Progressive Voices app for Android and iOS. Visit the App Store or ProgressiveVoices.com now.
This is Green Under Pressure. I'm your host, Susan DiGiulio, and today I'm really excited to be interviewing Jim Blackburn. He's an environmental lawyer and planner. He's professor in the practice of environmental law at Rice University, where he's also co-director of the SPEED Center, which stands for Severe Storm Prediction, Education, and Evacuation from Disaster. Any comments on the news that the EPA is going to dismantle the Clean Power Plan, the Obama administration Clean Power Plan? Do you have any thoughts on that?
There's no surprise on that. I think that's consistent with what the administration has said they were going to do from the beginning, and they're following through on what they have said they're going to do. I certainly don't support it, but it's no surprise. It is consistent with the policies that both President Trump and Rick Perry have set out at Energy. Those are policies I disagree with, but it's no surprise. They're doing exactly what they said they were going to do. We just don't believe that they're going to do it, but they have serious intentionality about what they want the country to be. And I think we're going to have to, if we're of a different mind, we're going to have as much intentionality as they.
In the last month, we've had a lot of these storms pelting the regions around the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean. In Houston, where you're based, you had experienced 2 500-year floods already since, I believe it was since 2001. That was before the third happened when Hurricane Harvey hit. Well, we've been hearing from many sources, including with other guests on this show, that climate change has heated up the Gulf and that this heat is driving the intense and frequent storms. So what does this part of the world have in store for it?
The whole pattern of more intense storms is absolutely in the future, not only for the Gulf Coast of the United States, but I would say for the world in general. This has been predicted for at least a couple of decades by climate scientists that are projecting the types of impacts that we could expect with climate change. We're beginning to see those. We've had, I think you indicated 3. Actually, I think I went back and kind of researched the records, and we've had 5 500-year plus storms in the last, since 2001. So it'd be really in the last 17 years or so, which is way beyond what the statistical profile should look like. But that's exactly the type of thing that the weather scientists are telling us, that the kind of traditional bell curve, that really all of the activity with severe weather is at the edges of that bell curve, and we're just seeing more and more occurrences in the second and third degree probability area, which is basically storms that should be very rare are becoming less and less rare.
With a huge effect on our cities and population areas. We talk a lot about the effects of these floods and storms on humans, but what about the effect on the natural world?
Well, I mean, in many respects, the natural world can survive a lot of these storms, perhaps better than the built environment of humans can. Certainly our coastal plain has evolved with saltwater inundation over the years from hurricane surge. That inundation will continue to get higher and higher with sea level rise and with big storms. And I think one of the interesting things that we don't quite know the answer to is how fast will nature adapt to, if you will, the increasing sea level and the further encroachment of these storms. Similarly, our floodplains have been carved over geologic time. There are usually at least 2 layers, or 2 benches, if not 3 benches on some of these flood-prone areas, and there's a channel, which is where most of the water goes most of the time, and then you get to less frequent events and even less frequent events. We're just using the higher benches more often these days. So I think nature is going to come to it much better than humans who have built on these benches and find themselves getting flooded more and more and more often.
So what should planners be thinking about in terms of sustainably rebuilding Puerto Rico and the U.S. Virgin Islands? And for that matter, hardening other areas like Miami and Naples, Florida, Louisiana, and the Texas coast. I know that there's mechanical and restorative natural options, right?
Well, I mean, that's certainly what we've been working on and studying at the Speed Center at Rice University, really since about 2009, 2010 time period. And I think we are convinced of a couple of things. One, if we don't get a better grip on these severe storm events, everything we are rebuilding will be obsolete virtually upon arrival. If our floodplain numbers are too low, we will be building roads, houses, we will be protecting hazardous waste to the wrong standard. And I think rebuilding raises that issue absolutely, and I don't know that anyone has an answer to that right now. I've not seen any great articles coming out of the engineering world about how to reestablish or to, if you will, reevaluate the current planning standard that should be used. We use 100-year storm and 100-year flood as a benchmark, but the rainfall events we've got are just simply too low for what we've been experiencing. And until those are changed, everything we're building is obsolete.
You've been listening to an ongoing series on progressive voices called Green Under Pressure. Your host is Susan DiGiulio, a sustainability expert and architect. This is a co-production of Susan DiGiulio and Flatlands Avenue Productions.
Mary had a little man. The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe it. Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
Puerto Rico.
I now recognize the gentlelady from New York, Ms. Velasquez.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dr. Carson, I'm here. I'm the only member who is a Puerto Rican American citizen who sits in this committee. So since I don't have the President Trump in front of me, I just would like for you to let him know how shameful all the tweets that he put out this morning, how offended and insulted I am as an American citizen. And I would like to suggest that the President get some history lessons regarding the Puerto Rican relationship with the United States. In 1898, American troops invaded Puerto Rico. American troops took over Puerto Rico. In 1917, so Puerto Ricans didn't invite the United States Armed Forces. It was invaded. So with that invasion comes responsibility. In 1917, American citizenship was imposed on Puerto Ricans, timely so that they could join the armed forces and fight in World War I. So those tweets are unprecedented. The most basic fundamental responsibility of the President of the United States, the President of the most powerful country in the world, is to show up and make and provide the assistance and the relief that American citizens need. They don't need this type of insult. And by the way, why is it that he doesn't put the same tweets when it comes to Texas or Florida? You invaded Puerto Rico. We invaded, the United States of America invaded Puerto Rico. My uncle participated in the Korean War. We shed blood to defend the freedoms that every American in this country enjoys. So to kick fellow citizens when they are down is shameful.
Wow. That was very powerful. That was Ben Carson yesterday testifying about what he, as housing and urban development, what is he going to do about housing in Puerto Rico, and she is the only Puerto Rican American on that particular committee. So it was interesting. She does ask him a question about what will he do, and Ben Carson just sits there with this goofy little smile on his face because he has no idea.
You said that you're providing assistance for those who lost their homes in Puerto Rico. I hear from the National Low-Income Housing Coalition and affordable housing groups on the island that the federal government's housing response has not been sufficient. What are you doing? In my hometown, Yabucoa, we lost 10,000 homes that were destroyed. What kind of assistance are you providing?
Well, thank you for asking that question. And, I do sympathize greatly with the people who've lost so much. There's 114,000 single-family homes that are FHA-backed, and that many of them have sustained significant damage. Our people are on the ground, including one of our associate senior assistant secretaries, Nelson Burgon, who is a Puerto Rican and has been extraordinarily helpful to me. He's moved over there. We have
what kind of
dozens
assistance are you providing for those who lost their homes?
Dozens of others have gone over there. And what we are providing are insurance for those who've lost their homes through Section 203H, 203K for rehabilitation of homes.
Dr. Carson, are you working with some housing groups on the ground?
And I will be going to Puerto Rico myself next week.
That's great, but that doesn't provide the assistance that they need today. People are dying.
I'm very...
And it's the raining season in Puerto Rico. I understand that FEMA promised to bring parts for roof that were lost. It's the raining season. People are dying today.
FEMA is the first responder there. They're gathering information. We're working with them in that process for the long-term recovery.
Dr. Carson, when you were nominated by the president, I said, what does he know about housing? But then, you're a doctor, and you said that you're going to take care of those who are suffering from health issues in public housing. I see a disconnect between your confirmation hearings and your commitment to address the issue of asthma, respiratory illnesses in public housing, and cutting $2 billion out of the capital and operating funds for housing.
The time of the gentlelady has expired. The chair now recognizes...
They just cut her off, is what they did. They just cut her off. So this is what she's talking about, just so you know.
The destruction, a constant reminder. Maria's eye was here just 24 hours. 3 weeks later, Puerto Rico is unrecognizable. But for us, this is familiar. We were here in Quebradillas just 4 days after Hurricane Maria struck. When we arrived, a woman, a complete stranger, embraced me in a way I will never forget. Desperate, she explained no one else had been to her town since the storm. No one else had come to see if that mountaintop community had even survived.
No one came.
Her name is Brenda.
Sí, Brenda.
Esa Brenda.
Sí, sí, prima hermana mía.
Brenda, ¿qué?
Sí, mira, aquí, mira. Esa casita.
Brenda's his
We
cousin.
wanted to find her again to find out how she's doing. That's her right there. That's her. She recognizes us immediately. Qué bueno verla. Bendiga. The mayor, she tells us, brought a box of emergency food. The neighbors all shared it. There's nothing left now.
The president has said that he's doing an A+ job in recovery efforts. How would you grade?
No way.
What grade would you give it?
I'll give it a D. We have not seen anything.
It's hard for them to give the U.S. government a good grade when they still don't have power or water. More than 80% of Puerto Rico, no electricity.
91
Maria
today.
left these mountains scarred. Mudslides are closing off entire communities across the island.
So this is as far as we can get In this part of Añasco, there's a whole community back there. You can see that there's water that's taken over the road. There's mud, trees down, making it difficult to reach this community. So we're going to have to go by foot in order to get to them.
Along the way, we meet David. He's a veteran, an orange farmer from the neighboring town who just wants to help. He hiked in with a full crate of water and ice.
So right now, you're having to walk through all this. Why?
For those people.
The people. That's what makes it so hard for him. At 70 years old, he's one of the few reaching the people in this community that he loves. A half-hour hike through an area once lush, now stripped of leaves and color. We learn one helicopter landed here since the storm. The bottled water is running out, along with the food for Josian, 5 months old, completely unaware of the realities surrounding him.
She's worried about the milk and the water for him.
And the president is saying we're going to say Merry Christmas this year, and we're pulling out of the Iran deal and destabilizing the entire world, isolating the United States as a country with a reputation of letting its own people suffer and die. I mean, nothing this man stands for or says is real or true or American. I mean, absolutely nothing. It's shocking to me how horrific this presidency is. It's shocking to me how this man is in it just for him, just for himself, just for ratings and for applause and for waves of love from like-minded idiots who think taking away health insurance from 4/5 of 10 million people who are poorer and get their insurance on the exchange is a good idea. Pulling out of an Iran deal that his own generals say Iran is in compliance with. I mean,
Iran is not in material breach of the agreement. And I do believe the agreement to date has delayed the development of a nuclear capability by Iran.
My view on the nuclear deal is they are in technical compliance of the nuclear arrangement.
Do you believe it's in our national security interest at the present time to remain in the JCPOA? That's a yes or no question.
Yes, Senator, I do.
So you've got Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, which he thinks he's not the president of. That's interesting. Then you've got California on fire, and he says you're healing very quickly. Meanwhile, these fires are going to rage all through this weekend. Sunday, 70-mile-per-hour wind gusts, low humidity, and 17 live fires right now. You're healing very quickly. Texas, Florida, he threatens the NFL this week. He's pulled $7 billion out of Obamacare this week. He's threatened TV licenses that don't even exist, okay, because he doesn't like the media. He thinks newspapers, should be banned, from writing the true facts of who he is and what's going on in this administration. I mean, this is unbelievable. And there are still a third of Americans, it's getting smaller and smaller, but there are still people, 32% of this country still supports this man literally dismantling every single thing that is good about this country. Every single thing. The First Amendment, the idea that we don't leave Americans behind to suffer, the idea that Obamacare, has subsidies to help people who couldn't afford health insurance because it was too expensive to buy health insurance, and that's covered 10 million people who are about 4/5 of those are about to lose their subsidies. I mean, just everything that's decent about the United States, all the really exceptional things about the United States, he is destroying. He's isolating us in the world. He's making us this odd duck country, this rogue nation. For what? To what end? What is the purpose of this? Why would the United States want to give up its status as the leader of the free world? Why would the United States want to be lying to the entire world about compliance in a nuclear arrangement and a nuclear deal to keep Iran from ever having a nuclear weapon? Why would the United States president lie about such a thing, even when his own generals say it's in our national security interest, they're complying, I've seen no breach? Why is he doing this? For a win, because he said he would. because that's who he is. It's about him. It's about what he said, what he had to say to appeal to the stupidest people in this country. His base.
To speak to Randi, call now, you bastards. 561-270-3844.
Hello.
The Randi Rhodes Air Force.
Hey everybody, it's Brett from the Randi Rhodes Show. It's Friday, and that's payday, which doesn't happen without you. I've got a taste of the good life, and now I've got addictions that need to continue. A man's got to eat, and he can't eat without your support. So help Randi support me. Go to randirhodes.com/support, and everybody gets fed.
Hey, I need to tell you something about Herky Jerky, because over the past year, you've been asking me to ask Jason from Herky Jerky if they will ever produce a turkey jerky. Well, I'm proud to tell you that he says absolutely yes. And not only does he have it now, it's absolutely spectacular. Let me start with the taste. It is extremely soft and slightly sweet, and it's bite-sized pieces that taste just like the homemade oven-roasted turkey that you have on Thanksgiving. It's made from turkeys raised without added hormones and just the right amount of salt, natural smoke flavoring, and spices that will make your taste buds go wild. And you asked for healthy. Well, Herky Jerky Turkey Jerky has no nitrates, preservatives, MSG, or artificial ingredients, absolutely zero fat, and packs a whopping 11 grams of protein per serving, and very low in cholesterol. Quite simply, I think this is one of the healthiest and best tasting high protein snacks you can get. Herky Jerky is so excited to announce the new Turkey Jerky that they're offering $5 off all packs for the entire month of October. Just use promo code TURKEY when checking out. And as always, they don't sell the little dinky bags that you get at the gas station. They're 14-ounce zip-sealed packs, and they're meant to last. Herky Jerky, making quality jerky and meat snacks for almost 25 years. Gotta tell you, I believe this is as good as anything I've ever tasted and the best thing they've ever produced. Try some today, herkyjerky.com.
Hi, I'm Laura Flanders of The Laura Flanders Show. Catch a fresh episode every week on Free Speech TV, Link TV, and our own YouTube channel at lauraflanders.com. Here's this week's commentary, the F word. To target activists in the 1970s, U.S. intelligence agencies conducted so much illegal surveillance that they generated one of the biggest scandals in U.S. history. The abuses of the 70s led to the Watergate hearings, the Church Committee, and the creation of a permanent Senate Select Committee on Intelligence. 40 years on, a lot of people are watching documentaries about the Vietnam War, while our government conducts surveillance ops that put anything from that era to shame. The only thing Americans seem to be doing less now than then is protest. So why is that? Not long ago, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security quietly announced that it will be collecting more data on more people. Starting October 18th, alongside everything else they already track, the DHS will be gathering social media information, Twitter handles, Facebook accounts, Instagram pictures, search records, viewing history, calling history, you name it. DHS and its immigration unit ICE will be targeting immigrants, they say. But they actually include everyone not born a citizen and anyone who interacts with those people. So that scoops up me and I bet you, certainly everyone in the Trump administration who communicates with the First Lady. In the 1970s, the FBI and CIA said their targets were domestic terrorists and foreign radicals. What people discovered all too late is that they were actually going after civil rights leaders, feminists, journalists, not just Jane Fonda and Art Buchwald and Dr. Martin Luther King or Muhammad Ali, but everybody who interacted with those people. Back then, Democrats in Congress held hearings, gathered evidence, concluded that a long, shocking list of privacy rights had been violated. Among those, the right to assemble, the right to speak, the right to associate, the right to communicate. And they took action. As in the internet age we do all these things online, we should at least be hearing a bit of hue and cry, especially from those who claim to abhor big government. In the 70s, enough people got angry, even in Congress, that they demanded tighter controls on intelligence gathering and more oversight. Today we're hearing murmurs, mostly about the privacy rights of so-called legal immigrants and citizens. We should know better. If our predecessors had realized more clearly sooner that spying wasn't only someone else's problem, but actually theirs, we might not be here today. Surveillance isn't a problem only for them, but not us. In a free society, it's a problem for democracy. The Laura Flanders Show recently completed a series on digital security. Find out what you can do to secure your phone and your social networks now at lauraflanders.com. Write to me, tell me what you think. That's Laura, L-A-U-R-A, at lauraflanders.com, and subscribe to get another F word next week. The Laura Flanders Show is a TV and radio program that seeks to raise radical spirits by interviewing forward-thinking people with real experiences of shifting power from the few to the many. Join us.
Call in, connect. To speak to Randi, call 561-270-3844. 561-270-3844.
We are stopping cold the attacks on Judeo-Christian values.
You're an attack on Christian values. Leave us out of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Ugh.
And something I said so much during the last 2 years, but I'll say it again as we approach the end of the year. You know, we're getting near that beautiful Christmas season that people don't talk about anymore. They don't use the word Christmas because it's not politically correct.
No, because it's Hanukkah.
Stores and they'll say Happy New Year, and they'll say other things, and it'll be red. They'll have it painted, but they don't say, well, guess what? We're saying Merry Christmas again.
What's wrong with you? He sounds like a mullah. I swear to God, he's imposing like his religious view. Not that he has any heartfelt religious views. This man is like, I mean, he's religious like a dreidel. Do you know? It's a prop. It's a prop for him. And what is he going to do? Pass a law that says that independent, businesses may see. I mean, this makes no sense to me, really. And that is a violation of the law. You know, that's 18 USC section 227 I keep telling you about, where it clearly says that no member of Congress, the president, the vice president, and even the U.S. Postal Service, nobody that is employed by the U.S. government can, on a partisan basis, tell a private entity what to do with regard to employment. I mean, this is just crazy. This is a violation of law. He continually violates this law. He's done it with the NFL. He's done it with TV licenses now. He's done it with now this Christmas thing. I mean, the man just won't stop, and it's ongoing, and it's a violation of a criminal statute that's impeachable. Stephanie in Green Bay, Wisconsin.
Hi there, Randi.
Hi.
Thank you so much for everything that you do. By podcast, people, I've spread that risen. But I work for an Indian Health Services clinic, and for the last 23 years, I have provided medical care. And when I saw him sign that ludicrous piece of paper, I saw all of our funding go in the toilet.
Why do you do the people that come to your clinic get their insurance off the exchange?
What we do is, because it's part of the Indian Health Services, it is a last resort. So we take care of all Native Americans, regardless of ability to pay.
Right, but do they get their insurance from the exchange?
No,
oh,
we try.
This executive order doesn't have anything to do with you.
No, wait. We try to get our patients to sign up because we need to keep the lights on. We need to be able to provide that.
Right.
So we can't force them to, but we do have medical benefits coordinators that anybody who does not have insurance, we make sure they meet with those medical benefits coordinators. Unfortunately, what he just put out right now, like you said with your ACA, I'm sorry, I don't call it Obamacare, I call it ACA. if they don't see it in their financial abilities, then they come to us without any cost, any care, any coverage, and we have to go in.
So let me ask you that they don't qualify for Medicaid?
A lot of them don't, actually, because they just make that little bit.
Too much.
Little bit over.
Yeah.
And it's sad because I'm taking care of moms, children, and right now I'm sorry.
Yeah, but I just
Paul
want you
Ryan.
to. I want you to understand that this particular executive order doesn't do any damage to people who aren't covered.
The thing that scares me as a medical provider, though, is the bigger picture because, one, we have Paul Ryan, I'm sorry, Nation. We have Scott Walker, because if they do put that responsibility back on the states, as they were saying originally when they were trying to put the last, Lindsey Graham thing to put all of that.
Yeah, the skinny repeal. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. We would not be able to keep the lights on. We would not be able to provide the care that we need to provide.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but I don't get how, if they're not on Medicaid and they don't have health insurance, how you keep the lights on in the first place, and second, how this affects you. But I'm sympathetic to what you do. I understand what you do, but I don't understand how this applies to your situation. And I really, really want the 10 million people who do pay for their insurance to understand that that the cost sharing benefit is what he is refusing to pay.
Because, Randy, it's a Indian Health Services. It's an entitlement benefit, part of the treaty.
Yeah,
law.
I understand what you're saying, but this is not that.
But if they don't have the treaty laws, because they are now,
but this is not that.
Which I appreciate,
right?
But
so
again,
let's not. You know, I mean, I like. We have to be extremely correct here, because people who watch this, listen to this, who don't agree with us, get extremely nasty if you misstate a fact. And the fact here is that the $7 billion in cost-sharing payments that he is refusing to pay is paid on a monthly basis. He's refusing immediately to stop those payments just in time for the November 1st open enrollment for people like me and people who do less than I do income-wise, who do qualify for a subsidy. 4/5 of those 10 million people are going to lose their subsidy. That is what happened.
I agree. But what people do need to realize is if they don't qualify that and their descendants and cannot receive any care through our Indian Health Services clinic.
I understand, but this is not that. Okay. I hate to hang up on you because I appreciate what you do, and I know that it must be extremely difficult to administer to all those people with no insurance and keep your doors open, but this is not that. Paul in Woodinville.
I think that the Native American Health Service is like the VA. It's you qualify if you qualify as a Native American. There's about 5.5 million people that are eligible for that. So I don't know what she's getting at, but the money the subsidies that he's refusing to pay, he's stealing. He's stealing this tax money. This was collected from the pharmaceutical companies. I just checked this out with Senator Cantwell's office because it occurred to me that the deal that Obama made with the pharmaceutical companies is he said we either renegotiate the Medicare Part D, whereas the pharmaceutical companies, the Medicare couldn't negotiate drug prices.
Yeah.
Obama said, we either renegotiate that or you give me $80 billion, $8 billion a year, and that's what we're talking about here, to cover the subsidies for the Affordable Care Act. And the pharmaceutical company said, we'll give you the $80 billion. So the money's already been collected. They're just he's sitting on it. And he can't give it back to him even because there's no law that says that he can. He's sitting on the $7 billion and wreaking havoc on, so people like yourself. A friend of mine also is on has a subsidy plan off the exchange. they're either going to have to drop their coverage, or the insurance company is going to pull out of it.
Yeah.
Or they'll have to drop their coverage, and not because they can't afford it, because they needed the subsidy to begin with.
Right.
And so, if you can't afford it, then you'll either have to not have health insurance and pay the tax, whereas you still don't have health insurance.
Yeah, or he's going to lure people with his great marketing skills. I mean, I wouldn't even be surprised if he set up Trump Insurance, okay, where they sell these crappy, non-ACA compliant health care plans that cover absolutely nothing. Remember when we were first, arguing about Obamacare, people go,
right.
Well, I have health insurance, I only pay $50 a month, and it's great. Right. And I always ask, have you ever used it? No, I'm very healthy. And then those people, they, unfortunately get sick, they break a bone, something happened, and they find out their insurance plan covered absolutely nothing.
Right, and those
he wants to go back. He wants to actually skirt the ACA and allow for the sale of those substandard crappy policies. And another thing he wants sold are these bridge policies, which are illegal now, meaning you could buy a policy just for, a month, or you could buy a policy for a year, okay? Right? The ACA limited those bridge policies for 3 months. You could only buy it for 3 months. If you were in between jobs, you could purchase something like that, but only for 3 months. Then you have
He's extending that to a year.
To a year, yes.
But those don't qualify.
No.
In other words, you still have to pay the tax.
Yeah, well, they don't qualify under the ACA. That's right, because they don't.
And the ACA,
because
the ACA
and the reason why they don't qualify for the ACA is because they don't have the 10 essential health benefits,
right?
And they don't have any preventative care, and they don't, guarantee the same kinds of things that the ACA does, and they're not in compliance with the rules.
And they're not regulable by the state insurance commissioners.
Right. That's another part.
So the other thing is, so that you don't get a certificate from the company that says that you still have to pay on your tax. You still have to pay the tax.
The penalty.
So you're buying a junk plan.
Yeah. You buy the junk plan and you still have to pay the tax for not having insurance because the insurance.
Because you don't.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You'd be better off with nothing than what he's proposing, which is a rare situation.
And listen to this. So the people that can't afford these plans, and I'm thinking about a friend of mine who just called me last night, and she is going to probably be out of this plan. I hadn't talked to her in about 6-7 months. She just said last summer she had some kind of cardiac incident, and now she's got AFib, and she's somebody who never took any, she was never sick. Now she's got this cardiac problem. If she can't afford her insurance, then what happens? Well, these people are not going to. You have to see if they can get on Medicaid. And what's Trump trying to do to Medicaid? Block grant it back to the states, so the states will be under all this pressure with the people that should be on have their own health insurance through the exchange because of the money that he's sitting on.
Right. So what you do is you take a person who can pay for their health insurance with a subsidy, they can swing it,
and put them on Medicaid.
And you put them, and they suddenly, they're the state's burden. And he's imploding the United States is what he's doing. Or if he doesn't see it that way, he's literally sentencing people to die. So any way you slice it, this is the worst move he could have made. Now, what he could have done, he could have actually negotiated with, because you've got a bipartisan effort here. You got Lamar Alexander working with, I forget which Democrat he's working with, to try and come up with a bipartisan fix for Obamacare, which obviously needs tending to. But no, this is just like the Iran deal. He just blows everything up so no one trusts him. And then somehow you're going to trust him? I don't get it.
But this isn't the part that needs fixing. This is not the part that needs fixing because, like I said, the money's already there.
No, I know. You're right. Listen, every think tank that works on health policy, every teacher, every part of academia, every part of the healthcare industry, they all said, listen, here's the thing. The language is very broad. We don't know if these rules will go into place as quickly as he's boasting, and let's just hope it doesn't, because if this happens and he does kill the subsidies immediately, the entire market will crater.
Well, there is one thing.
So in that weird way, Paul, maybe he's the reason that we get to single payer.
That could be true. There's a silver lining theory, but there is the 1974 Congressional Budget and Empowerment Control Act, which requires, and this is what Nixon went through, requires the president to spend all the money that Congress allocates. Well, I'm sorry that Republicans couldn't repeal and replace, so essentially Congress is allocating these subsidies.
Yeah, but you know what? They didn't. They didn't appropriate the money for this purpose. That's the hole in the deal. That's the hole in the deal. And this has been in the courts, by the way. This has been in the court system. A judge had already ruled that you can't force the president to make these payments because Congress didn't appropriate the money for that purpose. Now, it was on appeal, okay, and you've got the attorneys general of New York and California fighting this. But Paul Ryan just withdrew the appeal. It's called House versus Price. Look it up.
Okay.
Oh, it's horrifying. It's bad.
To speak to Randi, call now, you bastards. 561-270-3844.
Hello.
The Randi Rhodes Air Force.
Yeah, you could buy tile at a chain store if you wanted to. You could wait for a kid to try and answer your questions about what's this made of, or how do I install it, or what's in stock. But what if you wanted serious craftsmanship? What if you wanted custom design, handmade, to order from your imagination, or an inspiration photo that you love? Probably you think you can't anymore, but I did. When it was time to shop tile, I came across a family-owned business that still handcrafts each and every individual tile, matching your colors, your inspiration, your design. Tempest Tile Works. They're based in Portland, Oregon, and they still handcraft the most magnificent tile. Let them match to your fabrics or to your countertops or to anything you can envision for your bath or kitchen. Teeny tiny tiles to oversized, their art or yours. It's all doable, it's all affordable, and it's all individually made just for your project. Visit Tempest Tile Works and look at their amazing gallery of designs and styles, and give up the chain stores. Tempest Tile Works, custom made. TempestTileWorks.com.
I'm Rick Smith, and this is Labor History in 2. On this day in labor history, the year was 2010. That was the day 33 Chilean miners were finally pulled to safety after being trapped for 69 days. Workers had been mining copper and gold 2,300 feet down at the San Jose mine near the northern city of Copiapo when the mine caved in early August. The company waited several hours to notify authorities, and rescue efforts only began 2 days later. Trapped miners initially tried to escape through ventilation shafts, but found the required ladders missing. Each route they attempted was blocked by fallen rock or threatened additional collapse. A state-owned mining company took over the rescue efforts, and soon they began. As geologist Serena Sorensen noted, prospecting for people. Initial exploratory boreholes failed to locate miners because mineshaft maps had never been updated. Rescuers had no idea whether miners were even still alive. Finally, 17 days later, the 8th borehole reached them. The miners tapped on the drill and taped notes to it, alerting rescuers above that they were indeed alive and well. Food, medicine, and other supplies were lowered down to them as rescue efforts intensified. Mini cameras were also lowered down, and miners videotaped messages of their continued ordeal. They told how they continued to search for possible escape routes and agreed to ration their limited food supplies so they could all survive. The first of 3 drilling plans to free the miners began. It was an international effort. The Chilean Navy consulted with NASA to design and construct the rescue pods. Throughout the entire process, rescuers worked to prevent additional cave-ins and rock falls. Finally, the extraction process began, and in less than 48 hours, all miners emerged as heroes.
For the Progressive Voices Networks. This is former Congressman Jason Altmaier. Like you, I'm frustrated at the level of vitriol in our politics today. It seems as though we've lost the ability to work together, to discuss issues in a reasonable manner. Why is it that our elections seem to be dominated by the extremes? Why do so many of us feel unrepresented in Washington, and what can we do to restore trust in our electoral process? These are the questions I answer in my new book, Dead Center: How Political Polarization Divided America and What We Can Do About It. How do you win a debate with someone who won't even accept scientific fact that disproves their opinion? How can we change the mind of someone whose mind is already made up? What can we do to give voice to those who are currently unrepresented in America, the majority of us who want a Congress that can work together? If you want to know what we can do to break the cycle of extreme partisanship, Dead Center is the book you've been waiting for. When I served in Congress, my voting record was calculated to be at the exact midpoint of the House, the dead center, giving me the most centrist voting record in all of Congress. I worked with both sides and listened to different points of view. In my book, Dead Center, I use those lessons to explain how we can restore a spirit of civility to our public discourse, even on issues where we strongly disagree. There are steps we can take. There are realistic solutions that will neutralize the political extremes and give power to the mainstream Americans who make up a majority of the electorate. We don't have to surrender our core values to win elections. It is possible to give power to the people and ensure that the voices of everyday Americans are heard. In Dead Center, learn how we can bridge America's partisan divide. Dead Center, how political polarization divided America and what we can do about it. Available wherever books are sold. For the Progressive Voices Network.
This is the Randi Rhodes Show. To speak with Randi, dial 561-270-3844. That's 561-270-3844.
That will be a catastrophic decision that will lead to millions of people losing their insurance, and there will be thousands of people that die or get major medical expenses, declare bankruptcy and others if they actually make that decision. If they do, they will pay a price for having done it, but I still don't want them to do that. I don't want them to pay that price, because I would rather have those millions of people not lose their insurance. This is crazy town. This is a decision that is opposed by every major medical organizations, the doctors, the nurses, the hospitals, the insurance companies, the consumer groups, and every other leading expert group has opposed this decision.
That's everybody. Nobody, this man does not understand healthcare. This man does not understand television, journalism, the licensing. He doesn't understand the NFL. He doesn't understand private businesses. The president can't instruct private businesses to say Merry Christmas. They can't instruct private businesses to, fire people because they don't salute the flag. I mean, he doesn't get this. He doesn't understand what being the president of the United States is. He thinks the president of the Virgin Islands is not him. He doesn't understand any of this, and he's making these major decisions about the world and the compliance of Iran on a nuclear deal, which, like Iran, don't like Iran. I don't really, know what you think about that country, but I can tell you this. That deal is keeping them from having a nuclear bomb. And in my book, the less people have nuclear weapons, the happier I am. And today, he said he's decertifying the deal, which just kicks it to Congress. Congress is now going to have to vote on whether or not to reimpose sanctions on Iran. But he did go a little extra mile there. And he declared, and right after he gave this stupid speech about, I'm decertifying the nuclear deal for no apparent reason. He has no reason to do it. They've not breached any element of the nuclear deal. They've not breached anything. They've allowed all the inspections to occur. They have been found to be in compliance of their part in this bargain. And so, based on absolutely nothing except he wants a win, he decided that he would decertify the deal. Now, Congress it has to vote on whether or not to reimpose sanctions on Iran, but he himself declared that Iran's military was a terrorist organization. And that's a declaration of war. Because Iran can then turn around and say the United States is a terrorist organization. They're terrorizing our ability to protect ourselves, defend ourselves, whatever. And so this is cause for war. Same thing with North Korea. You've got Kim Jong-un over there going, he's lit the wick of war. I mean, because he makes these proclamations that, I'm going to bomb the shit out of them. This kind of stuff. Or, fire and fury. Or, there's only one way. And this is the calm before the storm. This man is off his rocker. He's dangerous. You understand that. He is. And I don't know how many shows we're going to have to do before the people who support him realize he is not on your side. You want to know about the tax cut? Here.
All right, in terms of income tax, personal tax, we have 7 brackets right now. These are the brackets based on your different income ranges. The president proposes to break it down to 3 brackets. But again, we don't really know what the income ranges would be. Which one gets you to 12%, which one gets you to 25%, which one gets you to 35%. There are lots of people who pay 39.6. The highest earners are going to go down to 35%. So we know it's a tax cut for the richest. We don't actually know what ends up here. And there's a lot of speculation that because certain personal deductions are being eliminated, there are a lot of people, middle earners, who are going to end up paying more in taxes. So it's a tax cut for the rich. There are all sorts of other things in there, like the AMT and the estate tax, which indicate this is a tax cut for the rich, not the middle class. Estimates suggest, by the way, that the president's plan, here is the rub about that nonsense that he talked about with deficit. This thing's going to add $2.2 to $2.7 trillion to the deficit over 10 years. Add, up arrow, more, bigger. Not smaller, not less, not green arrow. This is ridiculous. But you have to understand that this doesn't make sense. If we're going to start congratulating anyone for market gains, by the way, because the president has tweeted about this almost every day for the last week, I want you to look back. I'm all about the full story. Let's go back to January of 2009. There was another guy who became president that month. Take a look at where the S&P, I like the S&P 500 more than the Dow. Take a look at where it was back then. It was at 800. All right, now hold on. Just hold this for a second. I'm going to go and get a straight edge here. Take that and take just a regular line anywhere you want and just keep on going, keep on going, keep on going, keep on going. Oh, look at that. Look where we are when President Obama leaves office and Donald Trump takes office. A straight line up. Started at 800, ended up at 2250. The exact day before Donald Trump was elected, the S&P 500 ended at 2100.
He's going to raise taxes on the middle class. In fact, if he does away with my subsidy, then my taxes go up, right? Because A, I'm going to have to pay a tax because I can't afford health insurance and I'm going to have to go uncovered. And maybe I'll declare bankruptcy because, I'm still in the, post cancer phase where I just got a letter yesterday saying that I'm due for my 6-month mammogram because after cancer, you got to have them every 6 months. And my next one is November 10th. And guess what? November 1st, maybe my insurer pulls out of the exchange. And it's Blue Cross Blue Shield, big company. But if they don't get the if they don't get the payment, then they're entitled to pull off the exchange. So maybe I go bankrupt, maybe I don't have health insurance, and of course, maybe my taxes go up because now I got to pay a penalty because I don't have insurance. All the burden is on you, the middle class. All the burden is on you. This man is rearranging the deck chairs. It's still going to hit the iceberg, but the rich will be able to survive. We will not. He's destroying everything that is exceptionally good about this country, every bit of progress that we've made, every single thing that we think is wonderful about America. You can stand, you can have a beer, you could have a pretzel when they're playing the national anthem. You could stay in the locker room. You could always stay in the locker room till 2009. Then the military decided to spend $16 million, in forced patriotism, ads and flags on the field, and forced honoring of local National Guardsmen and all these, this pomp. And now all of a sudden, the NFL wants to talk to you about equal justice under law, which we have discussed all week long. Period. End of story. That is what these protests are about. Equal justice under law. Like Harvey Weinstein can go to rehab, but if you're some black guy who owned a restaurant who raped your waitress, you'd be in freaking Rikers Island right now. There's no equal justice under law. You're a corporation. You rip the American people off for billions and billions among billions of dollars and liar loans and the whole 9 yards, and you're found to have been the responsible party for the complete implosion of the American economy back in 2008. And guess what? You don't have to admit your guilt. Pay a little fine or something like this. And if you're a human being, you don't go to jail. If you're responsible for the Sago mining disaster or the Massey mining disaster, 29 people died. Maybe you'll go to jail for 3 months. Maybe you'll end up being Commerce Secretary like Wilbur Ross. Equal justice under law is what they're protesting, but he's trying to tell the NFL to fire these SOBs. I mean, who is this man? What is wrong with him? Ron in Buffalo.
Yeah, okay, you touched on it with a previous caller, but I may be a bit dense about it. Mm-hmm. How come he can get away with this what sounds like impounding funds. I thought there was this law that he had to spend money that was appropriated. Why is
it wasn't appropriated?
Okay, explain. I'm missing something here.
Okay, so in the ACA, they did not take that money that was collected from the pharmaceutical industry and appropriate it for specifically these payments.
Oh, so in other words, they took the subsidy from, they took the payment from the drug companies, but it's not specifically written into law.
Exactly.
Where it should go, Jesus, that was a
There's
dumb
a
thing.
hole in the deal. Right, that's what I keep telling you. It's like that last scene in Working Girl. Ask him about the hole in the deal.
That's what it is,
Yeah.
brother.
Yeah, that's what it is. And that's why it's in court. That's why it's in court. And the first court that heard it said, well, it wasn't appropriated, therefore it's not necessarily payable. And so the attorneys general in various states, New York, California, especially Becerra in California and Schneiderman in New York, have sued to say, but the money obviously is there and it needs to be, and the court said, no, Congress, knows what it's doing. And if Congress didn't appropriate the money, there must be a reason why they didn't appropriate the money. And of course, it's a Republican Congress, and that's why. But it was on appeal, and Paul Ryan just withdrew from the appeal.
Wait, he withdrew in other words,
the case is called House versus Price, meaning the House of Representatives versus Tom Price, so who was the health before he was fired, right? And so
it was the House that was doing the appeal.
Yes.
And now they withdrew from it.
Yes.
Well, I wonder why they even did the appeal in the first place. Then, if
go to my homework section. There's 3 different articles in date order called House versus Price. You could read the latest one first, the one before that, and then the original. You can read them all. The only thing that's missing is that Paul Ryan removed himself from the appeal today. That the House Speaker Paul Ryan said in a statement that the administration was dropping its appeal of the lawsuit, something the White House did not mention in its announcement. So you do have legal scholars weighing in on House versus Price on my homework. It's randyrhodes.com/homework. I'll take you right there. And you can read House versus Price, all 3 articles. But what is not current is that today Paul Ryan dropped the appeal. So there's no House versus Price anymore because the House isn't going to appeal it. But you do have 2 states' attorneys general that are fighting in court to say, obviously, this money belongs to this program. So we'll see what happens. They said they're saying here, Attorney General Xavier Becerra. He's trying to preserve the payments through the litigation. He said that what the president did was total sabotage. He said, we've taken the Trump administration to court before and won, and we're ready to do it again if necessary. And the same thing from New York's Attorney General, Eric Schneiderman. They're still going to push through. They might have to start a whole new case, though.
Well, you would think that the drug companies then would sue immediately, say, we're not spending that money we're giving you, we want it back.
Yeah, well, that's another avenue, and I'm sure these attorneys general can actually do that if the pharmaceutical companies are interested in, keeping their status as non-negotiable. Then I'm sure there's a deal to be struck. But again, the attorneys general don't have the ability to promise them that without Congress.
Right.
See what I mean? So yeah, it's a mess. It's a mess. Everything he touches turns to
everything. Yep, it's poison. This guy is absolute poison.
Poison's a good word.
Yep.
I like that word. Well, thank you. Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
I'll enjoy my last 2 weeks of having health care.
Hey, Randy.
Yeah.
The states that are going to take a beating are the red states with the health care. Those are the people that are going to get hurt, the people that supported Trump. And they're going to be calling their Republican representatives and telling them my health care costs are going up, and the pressure is going to be on all these Republicans.
Absolutely.
So, you know what? Maybe in the long run, the Democrats will have some leverage in this, and we may be able to come out on top.
Well, that's what I was saying to Paul. I was saying, the silver lining in all this might be that Trump is the reason we go to single payer, that it becomes the demand of the people. There is polling on my website, too, that clearly shows that 78% of Americans say President Trump and his administration need to fix this. And if they don't fix this, they will hold the Republicans accountable for this disaster, not the Democrats. So, We'll see. Well, I mean, Trump is banking on the fact that we will blame Obama. That is not the current feeling in this country.
Well, we got some hope there, Randy.
Yeah, I do. I have some hope there. However, in the next 2 weeks, we'll find out whether I have insurance there. That's the problem. And by the way, there's some great articles in there about why we don't sell insurance across state lines. You know, you can. It's legal in a whole bunch of half a dozen states. Nobody sells a policy like that because you can't arrange the networks of doctors and other providers of care. They don't know what the rules are in other states, and they don't want to know what the rules. They have their hands full. So this man is just a liar, okay? Everything he says is fake. Everything about him is phony. That's the bottom line. Buy a stinking podcast. Go to randyrhodes.com for the whole thing and a podcast. Buy a stinking podcast.